This is Channels Television's breaking news.
Good evening. Tonight, the world watched in terror as Airways Flight 377 crashed into the Pacific Ocean outside of Los Angeles International Airport. The NTSB has identified Charlie Gerolds as the pilot who is responsible for flying a plane below the glide slope, killing all 20 on board. We now go live to our industry analyst and aviation professional Alex Brandis as he tells us that this crash could have been easily prevented. I'm sitting here with Alex Brandis, renowned astrophysicist and aviation safety expert. Now, Alex, before the commercial break, you were telling me that this crash could have been easily prevented.
Yes, Sean, and it's in fact doctor. And yes, of course, with all aviation accidents, there's always a series of problems that go wrong to, cause an accident like this, whatever it might have been. It might have been Charlie's alcoholism or his ego. But in the FAA, we like to set up, certain steps, certain acronyms, certain procedures that can go along to help make sure that these lives aren't lost. And one of them that we bring today is the DECIDE model, and that's just one of the perfect ones to go over to solve these problems.
Now, you're telling me that the DECIDE model is a decision-making process for identifying and solving problems?
Yes, it could be used in any aspect of flight or any day of life. It's, of course, to use to lower risk, because we all know that risk cannot be completely eliminated.
Perfect. And now, what is the DECIDE model?
Well, Sean, if you would follow me up to the board over here, we can figure out exactly what the DECIDE model is. Of course, this is not something that people usually think about when they do it. They just kind of do it. It's just put up here to, teach, to ingrain in people's minds so that they actually do it. So, of course, we have the D starts off with detect. It's supposed to detect that any kind of change has occurred. Of course, we'll work this more out in the simulators later. And then we have to go to estimate. Need to estimate that the need to react for this. If it's something serious, you need to do it faster. If it's not serious, take care of it later. And then, of course, you want to choose a desirable outcome. If something's wrong, you got to choose, is this the best thing to do? And then to get to that choice, you have to identify the actions that need to be done. Getting out there, saving those lives, whatever it might have been. Then you have to do the action that you have identified earlier. And then once you do those actions, you evaluate them. And, if it's problem occurs, you keep running through it, and you should be able to figure things out with the amounts of training that we give pilots in the FAA. The accidents like these shouldn't have happened, but unfortunately they did today.
Well, Dr. Brandis, thanks so much for coming to our show.
Thank you for having me on.
And now our partners in Toulouse, France have set up a simulator reenactment to determine if the DECIDE model could have saved the doomed flight of AVM 377. I'm here in Toulouse, France with legendary simulator expert Dr. Francois Boulet. Dr. Boulet, thanks so much for having us today.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Boulet has programmed the exact flight path of AVM 377 before it crashed into the airport in Connecticut, Massachusetts of Los Angeles. So now, Dr. Boulet, we're on the glide slope right now on the ILS for runway 295 right. So the first problem that has occurred, we're below the glide slope, correct?
That's correct.
So we have to detect first that the problem has occurred, and we have to estimate the need for change. And you've told me that on an ILS approach, following a glide slope is critical because we're really low to the ground and we can't see the terrain due to the fog in Los Angeles and all that, correct?
Affirmative.
So we have to choose an outcome, correct? And I have learned that our best course of action is we have to get back onto the glide slope, which Charlie should have done. So we have to identify the way to get back on that, correct?
Correct.
So now, as you can see, Dr. Boulet is legendarily adding power and pulling back to maintain our altitude and get back on the glide slope. So now, after he does this action, we're going to evaluate it by using these cool things called a glide slope reading. So we're going to make sure we can get back on the glide slope. And now, as you can see, we've properly used the DECIDE model. We're back on the glide slope. We can land safely. Now, if we had done this, maybe Charlie could have gone back to the bars. Thanks so much, guys. So now that we've seen that the DECIDE model could have saved this tragic flight, we remind all of our viewers, and especially all of our pilots, to not forget their studying and to remember that the DECIDE model can save lives. I'm Sean Sullivan. Thank you, and God bless America.